Breaking the cycle to step forward. Authentic conversations from lived experience and a professional perspective in overcoming abuse with Chris Tuck and Beverley Ann.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Breaking the Cycle to Step Forward podcast with myself, Chris Tuck, and my co-host
Beverley Ann. Hello.
Hi, and it's episode number 55 today, Bev. Can you? Yes. We're struggling now, aren't we, to come up with some ideas. It's great when we've got guests because we can just talk about them, but when it's just you and I
know. And I don't know what's changed as well. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, there's a wider angle on my camera all of a sudden. Don't know how that happened. Yeah, well, you can see everything. You can even see my bits on the radiator, look.
Well, you know, we live in homes, and every space is used for everything, so
Yes.
That's fine. So what are we discussing today?
We're talking about speaking out, and sometimes the anticlimax that you can feel afterwards, you know, a little bit of a letdown, and why that happens in all different scenarios.
Okay, so when you first, let's go take it back to disclosure, and some people don't even like that word. When you found your voice and spoke up for the first time, what did you think would happen? What was the circumstances? What was the context?
Oh, it's filled with so much fear, isn't it? Because, you know, I was holding on to shame, guilt, and I know in a previous conversation, and you forget about this, it's you had this persona, what's on the outside. I had this big black hole inside of me, and I was carrying all the shame and guilt about what I'd done, which sounds ironic because, you know, my abuse started from the age of just about 4. I was 4. So I was just coming up to 4, or I just turned 4. And there's me thinking, like, what I have done. But that's part of the abuse. And so for most of my life, I'd been carrying on to that. So when I very first told someone, I thought I was going to be rejected. I was just waiting for this tsunami of rejection, of, you know, someone looking at me in a horrible way, rejection, judgment, all of that. So that's what you're preparing for. And then when that doesn't happen, it's like, oh, but it still follows you around for a while. Well, it did me. It follows you around, like you're waiting for someone to sort of point the finger, call you a liar, point the finger, all the things that go through your mind that you're thinking about with yourself. Excuse me, gonna sneeze. You're waiting for other people to do that, and you don't realize at the time it's yourself being judgmental about you. You're creating these scenarios to keep safe. If I anticipate them, I'll know how to respond.
Yeah. So
what about
for me,
you?
Yeah, different times of speaking up to different people made me feel different. So when I was a young child and I was trying to find the courage to tell my abuser no, whether it was the mental abuse, the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, no, I was anticipating horrid consequences for that. And on some occasions, the abuse escalated because I did say no. However, when there's been other times where I felt that the professionals that came into my life should have done something, and they were going to do something if I had the courage to speak up, and I found my voice, spoke up, and they didn't do what I thought they were going to do. They did the opposite, and I got told off, more consequences, more abuse. Then that obviously silenced me, and I've shared that all before. when I've spoken out as an adult in my professional world, so in the beginning, when I was a young adult to middle-age adult, not 54 as I am now, I didn't speak to anybody because of everything that you've shared, the judgment, the shame and the guilt that goes along with coming from a family that did bad things and where bad things happened, and all of that. You know, because my dad went to prison for sexual abuse crimes, and being a daughter of a paedophile, convicted one, that had its
Yeah.
icks around it. So I never spoke about my family because of that in those mid years. But then when I started doing my trauma work and understanding the impact, and then in order to break the cycle of that silence, you needed to talk about the impact, but then you need to talk about the experiences when it comes to raising awareness in order for that all to come out. I did have all of that, what you said, but I also felt very empowered by doing so. And because I had people that listened to me at that particular time. So when I launched the book, for example, I spoke in front of 80 people and I filmed it all, and I've still got all that footage today. I felt so empowered. And then that led to all of my journey of work that I've done that I'm not going to bore everyone with now. So I felt different things at different times, but I also felt that now I feel like sometimes that I get silenced and not asked to speak because they've heard me, seen me, used me, and they don't need me anymore because they've got fresh people.
And that's that word, use me. Do you know what? That resonates, because one of the things I'll say, so now as an adult and as a professional, when you speak out, when you're speaking out, you're speaking out because you want people to learn, you want people to be inspired, you want people to be educated, and all of this for proactive prevention going forward. So when you speak out, we know what that takes to the preparation, the self-care before the speaking, reading the room to ensure that you are being open and honest, but also making sure that you're not shutting people off as well. So that's a juggle, because
Yeah,
you're reading the room, you're reading your audience. But also when you open yourself for Q&A, that's challenging, but it's what we want, because we
yeah,
want honesty. We want to be able to be uncomfortable so that people can learn. That's what we always say, is about getting comfortable in being uncomfortable. But then when you have done that, the come down afterwards can be quite something, because you think that there's going to be people want to follow up, etc. And when
yeah.
it doesn't happen, the come
Mm-hmm.
down's in a different way.
Yeah,
It's a rejection again,
yeah,
but in a different way.
yeah.
But one of the things we need to also take back, as we were saying before as well, what we're giving away is our choice, which I absolutely understand. We're
100%.
choosing to do that. We're
Yeah,
choosing to do, but we are giving away personal, intimate bits of our life. Now, the people listening respect that. They absolutely
understand
understand
it.
it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But they've not had the same experience. And to them, it's like, oh, yeah, oh, well, yeah, I've got that information. Thank you very much. Now move on. And that's not wrong either. But
no,
it's dealing with that part. And,
yeah.
we've, we're very respectful of our guests. But I know that one or two of our guests have really put themselves out there to actually come on here. And we make it clear that all of our guests get the opportunity to listen to the recording before it goes out, because we understand that story is theirs. But
And they
yeah,
might want to take it back, Bev, as well, mightn't they? And they have the
yeah,
choice to do
absolutely,
that.
absolutely. But it's funny because I personally think you still expect a tsunami of some kind to
Yeah,
happen, much the
yeah,
same as the very first time you ever shared with someone. I don't think that changes in a way.
No. But I think you just sort of like maybe expect that to get I don't know, likes, shares, a thank you, and some people do. We're not saying that, but even for our guests that we've had on all throughout the 2 years that we've been live so far, is that, you know, that this conversation will be shared far and wide, and we often know that many people are watching, are listening, and are sharing and are taking on board what we're saying, and they don't necessarily want to make a comment or share because they don't want other people knowing that they are watching and listening to our stuff. But for some of our guests, it might just feel like, oh, I've just bared my soul and nothing's happened. Why has nothing happened?
No
And
feedback, no nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And we do have that sometimes, and we do feel that ourselves. But all we can do is carry on doing what we're doing, because what other options are there?
Absolutely. And it's really amazing when you do bump into somebody and the number of people that say to me, I've been listening to your podcast, well done. And I'm like, really? And having no idea that they've even listened to you.
Or even know we exist.
Yes. Yeah. So it does happen. But yeah, it's when you're sharing information, I feel it very much with professionals as well. So if I'm sharing with a professional, when I think about going to the dentist, I'm a nervous patient. I am a survivor of sexual abuse. This is a trauma response. I will be okay. I need to share that information
Yeah.
for them to understand. So for them to feel comfortable as well. And it's the different reactions I've had to that have been immense. From the very first time I shared it, I did it in a letter because when they used to get me out of the chair, I was passing out
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And I didn't want them to think that there was something wrong. So
Yeah.
they were brilliant. And most of people have been brilliant and want to know what they can do more. But there's always been one or two. And isn't it funny how they stick in your mind? They don't want to engage with you. They don't want to. I mean, the last one that wasn't too far from here in West Sussex, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they were awful. They didn't engage with me in any way, shape, or form, had taken this very personal information and then literally was shut off to me. I didn't expect them to put their arms around me, but I did expect them to at least engage with me. I'd given them information. And when they were talking to me, their faces were shut off. It was a huge trigger. And then I was told that you should have gone to the doctor to get Valium before you came and saw me. Really dismissive.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Really
And
dismissive.
Valium's not always the answer, a
No, I'm
tablet's not always
here.
the
I'm showing
answer.
up.
Yeah.
I've given you the reason, and actually, it's
Yeah.
been really hard for me to share this, but I've
Yeah.
shared it with you. I know that her job
Yeah.
as a dentist that's her job, but hold on a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit of interaction
It's
between you
just
and your
client care, isn't it? It's client
yeah,
care.
but not everyone can do it. We
No.
know, but not everyone can do it, and there's
So,
that fear.
yeah, there is. So going back to the title of this podcast, what happens after speaking out? It just really all depends, doesn't it, on the situation, the context, how old you are, the response you want, the response you expect, the response you actually get, all of that. But for me, I just wanted to bring it back to maybe victim and survivors that have spoken out, maybe on social media, through the press, on TV, on radio shows, for example. So, like high profile
Mm.
speaking out because there's a bigger reach. Now, you tend to get that kind of bigger reach when you've gone through a court and you've got a conviction, or if you've gone through the court and you haven't got a conviction, because they like to share if it's got a sentence to it, or if they were not found guilty, for example. So then your case or that case is then in the mainstream media, it's on social media. So those victims and survivors, those individuals, they obviously do tend to get more of an audience, a bigger reach, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, but what I'm saying is that some victims and survivors might speak up and think they're going to get all of that, and they just won't. It just won't happen. Okay. So I think people just need to really just understand that when they're sharing their lived experience, is like, what do they actually want from it? What do they want to use their lived experience for? And also, there's a lot of people, even outside of victim and survivors, who think that this is money making, and it just isn't. Like,
15 minutes of fame, lots
yeah,
of money.
but
They're only in it for the money.
Yeah, how many times do we get to hear that? And if I can just, for an example, Bev, just quickly, we didn't get a conviction through the court. And because of that, we couldn't name and shame publicly, because otherwise you can be done for defamation of character. Even though I would encourage my caregivers to take me to court, because then I'll get my day in court. And I've always said that. But because of that, no publishers and no mainstream media would touch the actual story. You just only can share like an angle of your story, like the impact, for example. So I talk about, I went through this abuse with these caregivers, but no naming, but a lot of them don't want to know any of that because they don't have a solid conviction. And it actually cost me money to write my book, self-publish it through a printer, and also people think that I've made lots of money from this book. It just doesn't make money, not the way that I've done it, because I can't, there's no way of me actually getting it out there, because I've got no machine behind me to sort of PR it for me, because there's nothing in it for them, so they're not going to do it. So, and if anything, any money that does get made on the sales of the book goes straight back into the charity anyway. So it's not going to make victims and survivors rich, even if they think it might do. But many victim survivors don't think that, but it's the other people outside of that that do think that, and it's just not the reality.
No, and it's very discombobulated.
Right.
I can't actually, it's not connected in any way. I think, coming back to it, I think the reality is that you really have to be selective and consider what it is you want, wherever you're sharing your story, what's it for? And for me, when I read other stories, I will acknowledge it where I can, but sometimes you want to reach out to someone, but you don't know how to contact them. So there is that time as well. Do you see what I mean? You don't know how to contact them. But it comes back to thinking about yourself. What do you want to happen with your story? Because a number of times I've heard people say, oh, I heard an interview that you did a year ago, 2 years ago. And I'm like, wow, did you? I've forgotten that one. But also, it's really lovely when you know that it's helped someone.
It's helping people.
For me, if it helps just one person, and even that dentist that was vile towards me, and I will never go back to her again. And she's one of the best dentists. Well, you know what? I will never go back to you again.
No.
But I'd like to think that one day she'll look back on that interaction and maybe rethink things as she goes forward. Maybe she just, you don't know what was going on in her life as well.
But going back to what happens after speaking out, also I think people need to understand that some podcasts again make money, huge amounts of money. Our podcast, we don't. We do it for nothing, because that is our choice, because we want to raise awareness, and all of our guests come on and they give up their
They
time.
give up their time. And we are so grateful.
But also their expertise, their learning, their education. They bring all of that on here and share it with everybody. And we are so grateful for that, because some of these guests are probably earning big bucks and we don't pay them a penny. So we just want to extend our thank you to all of you that have ever come on and are coming on in the future, because we appreciate all of that.
And anyone who would like to come on and be our guest, because we'd always be interested to hear, because we want to understand, you know, why you want to come on, what's the message you want to share, because that's important as well, so we can understand ourselves and join the conversation. And if you're interested, please contact us. The link will be underneath anyway, but you contact BreakingTheCycleToStepForward@gmail.com. You know, email us, and we'd be interested in hearing from you. So, Chris, final word before we wrap this one up.
I would probably like to hear from people about them after they've spoke up. What happened? What did they expect to happen, and what actually happened? I'll be really interested in hearing from different people about that.
Yeah, and I do really think it's because the amount of preparation it takes, personally and emotionally. I think we think we're putting all this into this,
and
then on the other side it's like, oh, thank you very much, that's it. And then it's like, oh, life carries on, and it oh, what do I do with this energy? So please, anyone, if anyone's spoken already and they need to look after themselves, please do even reach out to us, because we'd love to hear from you. And I just, for me, I look back now from where I am now to where I was, and no, I know it wasn't me now. I know it wasn't my fault. And so for me, the rewards I've got personally, it has empowered me. Also, my life purpose is about, and I've got it written here because I did a workshop, a vision board workshop, and I'm just going to share my life purpose on my vision board. It's to inspire, educate, and live a life past trauma, and be proactive in the prevention of abuse.
Wow.
And that's why I speak out.
Well done. And mine is communicator, connector, and change maker, change agent. That's the 3 C's.
Fantastic.
And I do that in any way I can.
And that's where, when you have a purpose and you know why you're speaking out, then you can trust that the information gets to the right people at the right time.
And it also makes you feel good about yourself, rather than stripping yourself back to the core where it hurts and where it feels not good. I think you've always got to think about empowering yourself and not disempowering yourself, whatever interaction you're getting into.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is.
Absolutely. And one thing we cannot control is how people receive it.
No.
And that's in everyday life when we're communicating something. You know, we can put something out with the best intentions. We don't know how people are going to receive that.
No.
We can't control that.
At the same time, if we give it out with good intentions like we always do, and we give it out freely, then that's it. Done.
Yeah. And on that note, thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. And thank you to everyone. Bye-bye.
See you soon, everyone.